do you have maybe any predictions as far as trans rights? What's going to happen? What they're going to be pushing towards more? I have seen a few. I think there's one YouTuber I follow in particular. I can't think of her name. I think it's like Blake something, but she's trans.
Blair White.
Yes, Blair White, and talks a lot about, I think, the other side of trans that is not necessarily talked about. Detransitioning, people having botched surgery, things of that nature. Do you think, or what do you predict is going to be maybe the future of trans activism rights, what they're going to be pushing for, and the pushback they may receive?
Well, what's going on right now is that they're pushing to get into women's spaces. That's really the main thing, because you could be transgender and be either person, like I've met a person that was biological XX female, but then identified as male. Clearly it's a little woman, 5'1", petite. It's like, you fun size. Like, what are we doing with the beard? Anyway, they are identifying as a male. They're not going to be in spaces with men necessarily. They, not in a locker room, not trying to play basketball, nothing like that. These are things that biological men do. Okay, you got a bunch of biological men that will simply identify as women to get into women's spaces, bathrooms, locker rooms, and of course you're going to have sexual assault. You're going to have indecent exposure. That's already been happening. We've already seen this in bathrooms, locker rooms. It was a story about the swimmer, Leah Thomas, the big 6'4" Michael Phelps looking character. Okay, this guy's in the locker room with other women, still got his full male genitalia, and he's in the locker room with the women undressing. They covering up, like, what are we doing? Normally, you can just undress in front of other girls and it's fine. It's not really a big deal. But a man's in here with his stuff, and he's not gay. He still likes women. He might say, oh, I'm lesbian, but you're a man. You like women. That's normal. You're a heterosexual male, okay? So, and he's in there, so it's like, what do? That's going to cause a lot of problems. So you're going to see a lot more of that happening. And then as far as the drugs are concerned, you having these children that are getting on these puberty blockers, hormone blockers. They're getting mastectomies at 13 years old. They're getting their Johnson removed at underage. They're going to have a lot of problems developmentally, because in Sweden, they have a lot of experience with these drugs, the puberty blockers. What they're finding is that a lot of the girls, their spines don't fuse properly. So they kind of hunched over at 30 years old, and they die early too. They die in their 30s because of these drugs they get put on. Because again, you're supposed to have puberty, your cycle, all of that as a woman to develop normally. It's just like being a baby. You have stages of development. And if those are interrupted or changed at all, you're going to have problems when you're born. Same thing if you have drugs put into your system at a young age constantly, that's going to change where you develop, and you might not be able to live to be a fully complete human being. We're going to see that start to happen in the States. Then it's going to be a problem. Then it's going to be a whole medical scandal. Then they're going to try to apologize. And I think only at that point where they try to roll things back, unless we can get some real strong guys in office that can roll all this stuff back. If they can't do it, it's going to be a problem. We're going to see things like this persist. And really, lastly, I think that it would just come down to women speaking out against it, because this affects women normally, mostly. Men are not going to be affected by this. We're not going to have women coming into the bathroom trying to assault us. We're not going to have them trying to come locker room and assault us. We're not going to have that. It'll be you guys as women they got to step up and say something about it.
Because I've already seen this trend a little bit of women and trans women beefing about who's prettier, who can get men more. Like, I've already kind of seen this beef, and I was talking to my husband about this. I was like, wouldn't it be crazy if you had like literal trans women who, for whatever reason, didn't like cis women, were actual legitimate misogynists, got into positions of power, maybe they're the boss, maybe they're whatever, they have influence, and they specifically targeted cis women because they saw them as competition. Because I'm already seeing this. Seeing this in certain ways. And I mean, you mentioned sports. I've seen it online on different trans women getting into it with cis women over who's more feminine. Like, I've seen it on a smaller scale, and I've always wondered, like, can this go like really, really, really bad to where there's a different kind of misogyny going on now? I don't know. I don't pretend to be an expert, but it's very peculiar. That's all I can say.
It's already happened on a big stage. J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter. You familiar with that?
I know she's kind of been canceled because she was, I think she's called a TERF, right? Like a trans
Exclusionary radical
exclusionary.
feminist.
Yes, and she does not. I think she got canceled for being like she doesn't rock with trans because I think that she thought that trans could basically turn around and oppress women. From what I understand, that was her position. And
Yeah.
I think
So
she wrote
and
a book
then
about it, right?
yeah, so it's like you seeing it in real time. You got the author Harry Potter like being canceled by men. Really, that's ultimately what it is, for not being enough of a woman. I don't really understand what they're trying to do, but whatever.
I, it's it's kind of one of those things, because anytime I make a position, I try to make sure that I've thought through it. I've looked at all the different details, and to me, quite frankly, there's so many crazy things going on right now. I'm just kind of like, I'm a little bit speechless. I'm like,
Right.
I'm still trying to figure out how to verbalize, how to make sense of it. Because certain things to me, quite frankly, don't make sense. To be quite.
Oh, no, this right here is coming right here below me. So there was a guy, a so-called trans guy, who, a biological XY with his full body parts. He got locked up and he went to women's prison, and he gets not one but two inmates pregnant in the prison.
I think
Inmates like, so it's bad enough you got to worry about in the male prison. It's assault going on between the men. Bad enough. Same thing with the women. But imagine you got to worry about assault from a man in the female prison, and then the girl get pregnant.
Yeah. All I can say is if there's not more policy or balance given to trends in female sports, then I think female sports as we know it will not be female sports, or it'll be trans female. Like, because I'm like, there is no. I don't care however you try to spin it. Like, science of biology is science of biology. You're not competing as a woman, even if you're like the exact same height and the exact same weight. It's like women don't have the same amount of muscles. Like there is no competition as far as physical strength. So
your body is different. It's just
yes,
people.
Period. It is absolutely different. I want to say that women only have like, I think only like 40% or something of the upper body strength as men, something like that. So it's like I don't care how much you try to lift weight in
Ain't gonna happen.
push-ups, like there is no. So it'll be interesting to see how things unfold for sure.